President Benton and members of the council, my name is Rachel Azar and I work at El Centro de Igualdad y Derechos, an immigrant rights and worker justice organization in Albuquerque that has over 4,000 members. We laud the sponsors of the memorial for taking action that commit returning Albuquerque to the status of an immigrant-friendly city, something that we are proud to say that our city had the insight to pass in 2000. This is in line with our proud legacy of passing policies which are conducive to integrating immigrants into the mainstream that preceded us and that were unfortunately undermined by the Berry administration. We are also proud that APD has a clear policy in line with federal laws that limit collaboration with ICE. Trump's draconian executive orders aim to turn away refugees who have fled violence and persecution, grow the for-profit private prison industry on the backs of hardworking immigrant families, ban people from Muslim-majority nations, implement mandatory detention, and conduct immigration raids in our communities that target some, sweep up many, and terrorize all, and in addition trample on our due process and constitutional rights. At a time when our families are being targeted by ICE in their homes, at work, and in the courts, and when fear is at an all-time high in our city, we are disappointed that Mayor Berry was quoted stating that the Department of Homeland Security memos issued yesterday won't impact Albuquerque, and continue to stand behind his dangerous Trump-like practice of welcoming ICE agents to check immigration status of suspects. We have lived through this as a city. We have seen programs such as Secure Communities and other deportation programs lead to the erosion of our rights and the separation of our families. We cannot backslide as a city. We will fight vehemently to ensure this does not happen again. And we thank and laud the council and look forward to working with you and urge you to strengthen current policies in this new Trump era.
Thank you, Ms. Lazar. Next, Birkin. Again, we'll ask to refrain from applause or we could be here all night. Thank you. Next speaker is Kay Huggins, followed by Kay Bunk. I'm going to mess up your name, Bunkea, followed by Kathleen Smith.
Mr. President and City Councilors, my name is Kay Huggins. I'm a retired Presbyterian clergywoman. I currently serve as the interim director of the New Mexico Conference of Churches. This is a network of leaders from 8 judicatories within our state. It does not represent individual congregations, but the larger judicatories. Therefore, I speak from, not for, but from a group of about 300,000 residents of our state. I'm here to urge the reaffirmation of the immigrant-friendly city memorial of 2000. I speak not only from the Protestant, Anglican, and Roman Catholic churches within Albuquerque, but also those citizens across our state who look to the city of Albuquerque for inspiration and leadership, especially when times are confused and confusing. The issue I'd like to address is fear that is not limited strictly to the immigrant community, but corrupts and changes and tears at the very social fabric of all our community. As a Christian and as a church leader, I'm concerned about the conversations reported to me. Consider the implications of these questions. Parents ask, what are we to do if a child's parent cannot be located after soccer practice? Church members wonder, why is the attendance at our ESL classes dropping? Social workers ponder, what can we do to assure our seniors that the community center is a safe place? City councilors, the undercurrent of fear is palpable across our social systems. Not only fear generated within the immigrant community, but also across, you know what I'm going to say now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huggins. Please, 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 no applause. We're, be respectful of everyone who's here tonight, because it's going to take a lot longer if we're going to have to listen to applause after every speaker. Kay Bonquia, I'm sorry, help me out.
Okay, Bunque.
And then the next speakers are Kathleen Smith and Uriel Martinez.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Kay Bunque. I'm the Executive Director of the New Mexico Asian Family Center. I was also born into a mixed status family. From 1964 to 1973, the United States dropped 2 million tons of ordnance on Laos, which equates to a plane load of bombs every 8 minutes, 24 hours a day for 9 years. My parents lived in refugee camps until they realized their only chance to live was to leave. They had very limited options. In trade for their lives, they became undocumented immigrants in the very country that bombed their home before becoming US citizens under amnesty. I myself have the privilege of having been born a US citizen, but with that, I have inherited a legacy of loss, of trauma, of generational fear and anger. I have inherited an Asian American history that includes the Chinese Exclusion Act, the enforcement of Japanese internment camps where Japanese citizens were displaced and interned in their own country without any due process under the guise of legality. I have inherited an Asian American history that now includes the hateful treatment of our Muslim, Arab, and South Asian brothers and sisters in a 9/11 world, post 9/11 world. We are in a crisis. We are in a crisis of repeating our flawed history, and our communities are afraid. At the Asian Family Center, where part of our work includes supporting domestic violence victims and survivors, I'm hearing more stories of abusers who we are empowering through the very policies our government passes to wield deportation as a tool to keep our women and children under their control. We are in a crisis, but we can take local action to protect our communities. I urge the council to reaffirm Albuquerque as an immigrant and refugee-friendly city, but more importantly, I urge our council to take tangible action to create real protections for our families. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Uriel Martinez, followed by Jessica Rodriguez. And then, I'm sorry, Kathleen Smith is next, beg your pardon, followed by Uriel Martinez and Jessica Rodriguez.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kathleen Smith, and I am an Albuquerque resident. Though I am part of the local Quaker community, I'm speaking this evening as a private citizen. Last Thursday, I attended this council's Committee of the Whole meeting as a supporter of continued funding for our exceptional library system. I want to thank both council members and citizens who attended that meeting for the respect that was shown to each by persons on both sides of the bench. It was heartening to witness such a civilized exchange between the public and elected officials after having been bombarded by so much negativity on the national level since the recent presidential election. I am asking that this respect continue outside of council chambers by the adoption of Memorial 17-4 to reaffirm Albuquerque as an immigrant-friendly city with greater protections for our neighbors who are immigrants, refugees, Muslims, Jewish people, and people of color, and the LGBTQ community, and with people with disabilities. In addition, I felt wonderfully secure with our police standing by during both our women's rally in Civic Plaza and our march to the airport to resist the travel ban. I will no longer feel secure with my peace officers if they are made to corroborate with ICE, and strongly advise that they are not ordered to do so. I love my Albuquerque neighbors and know that together we can continue to love each other as we face these daunting challenges. Thank you sincerely.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Martinez, and then Jessica Rodriguez, and then Suki Halevi.
Good evening, President Benton and council members. My name is Uriel Martinez. I'm a member with El Centro de Igualdad, as well as the New Mexico Dream Team. Both are community-led organizations that primarily focus on informing and educating our immigrant community here in the city. As you all know, in the last couple of weeks, fear and panic has become a daily reality for many throughout the country. Students that under the DACA program had a sense of protection that allowed them to work, study, and contribute to the U.S. are now living with fear, because even they that by law were protected have been detained. Parents are having to explain to their children that one day they might not be able to pick them up from school like they usually do, just to name a few examples. As a consequence, we are seeing immigrant communities throughout the country slowly being pushed back into the shadows. Trump's deportation force is real. The threat is here. We need you to stand with us, which is why I ask you to do all you can to put an end to the fear immigrants and refugees are facing on a daily basis. We need you to pass clear policies that block any collaboration between local law enforcement and federal immigration. Albuquerque should continue to be an immigrant-friendly city, a city in which an immigrant student can focus on going to college and becoming a productive member of society, a city in which an immigrant parent has the certainty that they'll be able to pick up their children from school, a city in which immigrants feel proud and safe to live here. Let's continue to welcome immigrants and refugees to our city and thank those who chose to live here in Albuquerque. Those who decided to start a business in Albuquerque, start a family, a life. Thank them for believing in Albuquerque. Thank them for their valued contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Jessica Rodriguez, followed by Suki Halevi, and then Father Vincent Chavez.
President Benton, I request additional time to translate.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll include the extra time for a translation.
All right.
Buenas tardes, Presidente Benton y miembros del Concilio. Mi nombre es Jessica Rodríguez, madre de 2 niñas de 6 y 8 años. Soy miembro activo del Centro de Igualdad y Derechos.
President Benton and members of the Council, my name is Jessica Rodriguez, mother of 2 beautiful girls, a 6 and a 8-year-old. I'm an active member of el Centro de Igualdad y Derechos.
Mi comunidad inmigrante nos sentimos muy contentos de ser parte de Nuevo México. Somos una comunidad que trabaja, limpiamos casas, construimos carreteras, cosechamos la mayoría de sus comidas, limpiamos sus hoteles y tantas otras cosas.
My immigrant community feels proud to be part of New Mexico. We're a very hard-working community. We clean your houses, build your streets, harvest your food, clean your hotels, among many other things.
En estos momentos estamos pasando mucho miedo, pánico, por todo el racismo que el presidente Trump está generando hacia todos nosotros. Mis hijas, al igual que otros niños jóvenes, no merecen este ambiente de tan intensa incertidumbre. Ellos no deberían de preocuparse por esto, pero ¿cómo lo puedo evitar si en cualquier lado se habla de todo esto?
At this moment, we're witnessing fear, uncertainty, and panic because the current executive orders Trump is generating. My daughters, such like many New Mexico children, don't deserve to live under this anti-immigrant climate. The fear of separation, they should not be concerned with this. But I don't know how to prevent it. If everywhere we go, this is the main topic.
A pesar de todo esto, me siento agradecida de que aquí en Nuevo México hemos podido aprobar políticas que protegen los derechos de nuestra comunidad inmigrante.
Despite these issues, I feel grateful that in New Mexico, we have been working tirelessly to ensure that the rights of immigrant communities are protected.
Pienso en esta reafirmación que habla de Albuquerque como un santuario, como solo un primer paso en esta lucha.
I believe that this reaffirmation is the first step in this fight.
No permitamos que nuestras familias ni nuestras diferentes comunidades, tales como la comunidad musulmana, LGBTQ, asiáticos, afroamericanos y tantas más, vivamos con miedo. Tomemos en cuenta que solo somos seres humanos que merecemos respeto y dignidad. Gracias por su atención.
We will not allow that our families, nor our Muslim, LGBTQ, Asian American, African American communities, among many others, to live in fear. We are all human, and we all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Next is Suki Halevi, followed by Father Vincent Chavez, followed by Father Leon Vigil.
Mr. President, members of the Council, my name is Suki Halevi. I'm the New Mexico Regional Director for the Anti-Defamation League. The ADL was founded 104 years ago to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment for all. We fight bias and hate, and we protect civil rights. Jews have a long history in New Mexico. We came here fleeing the Inquisition. We came here as pioneer and mercantile families escaping discrimination, persecution, and hardship. We came as Jewish scientists fleeing the Nazis. We came legally until the doors were closed, and then Jews were sent back to Europe during the Holocaust, and many perished. Some got in with forged documents, most were locked out. My ancestors, I'm the granddaughter of immigrants, Jews were called dirty, ignorant, or dangerous enemy agents. Does that sound familiar? That's why our blood runs cold when we hear anti-immigrant and anti-refugee and anti-Muslim and racist rhetoric now. Or when we see the government taking actions, our government taking actions that threaten civil rights and due process, targeting vulnerable communities. And when we see a recent surge of anti-Semitism and white supremacists celebrating. For these reasons, we strongly support Memorial 17-4. ADL also works closely with law enforcement regarding hate crimes and extremism, and we know the importance of good relations and trust between law enforcement and the communities that they serve. Involving local law enforcement in federal immigration actions puts the safety of our communities at risk, makes it less likely that immigrants will seek assistance or work with law enforcement when crimes are committed. We must preserve this trust. Please vote in favor of this important memorial.
Thank you. Father Vincent Chavez, followed by Father Leon, followed by Nora Hernandez.
President Benton, councilors, I am Father Vincent Chavez, pastor of St. Therese Parish and School. Our vision at St. Therese is taken from the prophet Jeremiah. Seek the well-being of the city to which I have sent you. Pray for the city to the Lord, for in seeking its well-being, you shall find your own. In other words, when we become other-oriented, we find our personal contentment, we find our communal well-being. Councilors, did you know that Albuquerque is considered a great city of the world? It is a great city in how it treats the deprived of the world. The citizens here are most generous, and the services of care and outreach, which you all guard and see to, are so impressive that rich cities such as Dallas and Phoenix send their deprived on buses bound for Albuquerque. Passing Memorial M17-4 makes us great. I bring you this evening the words of Archbishop John Charles Wester. City councilors, as I have stated recently, I support the Albuquerque City Council's reaffirmation of Albuquerque as an immigrant-friendly city and commitment to safeguarding the civil rights and safety of all residents through passing Memorial M17-4. As Catholics in New Mexico, we have the opportunity to stand with people of all faiths and of all countries as we journey with them. Our Great Seal of New Mexico depicts an American bald eagle shielding a Mexican eagle under its wings. This symbol embraces the complex history and relationship between Mexico and New Mexico. As New Mexicans, we know friendship, cooperation, and solidarity with our neighbors. It is part of who we are. Welcoming immigrants and resettling refugees who are fleeing violence is part of the fabric of American democracy.
Thank you, Father. Next is Father Leon Vigil, followed by Nora Hernandez, followed by
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I'm Father Leon Vigil. I am the parochial vicar at Santuario de San Martin Parish in Albuquerque's Westgate community. And there I have the opportunity and the privilege to work with many of our city's immigrant population by ministering to them through the sacraments and through other works of mercy that the gospel calls for. In regards to the memorial, I want to remind us of what Pope Francis stated in his address to Congress back in 2016. Let us remember the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This rule points us in a clear direction. Let us treat others with the same passion and compassion with which we want to be treated. Let us seek for the others the same possibilities which we seek for ourselves. Let us help others to grow as we would like to be helped ourselves. In a word, if we want security, let us give security. If we want life, let us give life. If we want opportunities, let us provide those opportunities. The yardstick we use for our others will be the yardstick which time will use for us. The Golden Rule also reminds us of our responsibility to protect and defend human life at every stage of its development, end quote. Thank you for your time and consideration in safeguarding all people's rights to life and peaceful living. God bless you and your work.
Thank you, Father. Next is Nora Hernandez, followed by Adriel Orozco, followed by Leticia Hernandez.
Good evening, President Benton and council members. My name is Nora Hernandez. I'm a former community organizer and actual member of El Centro de Igualdad y Derechos. As community organizer of El Centro, one of my duties was to inform and orientate people that have a family member facing a deportation process. One of my duties was to meet you. I have the pleasure to meet some of you, Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Winter, Benton, and I think Ms. Trudy. Sometimes they have, or these people had, to face the deportation process by themselves. During the time that I worked at El Centro doing this job, I heard tons of sad stories. Stories like father of 3 American citizens that were put on deportation process for an unpaid ticket. Like a victim of domestic violence arrested by mistake because the language barrier. Just a week ago, I got a call from a friend asking for help for his cousin. He was detained by immigration officers. These officers were looking for his father, whom was arrested and deported almost 10 years ago. With no criminal record, unfortunately, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Both of them are in El Paso, Texas right now, fighting for stop this deportation. We know how this deportations process work. We know because our Mayor Barry, we're putting this processing in our jail. We know this is not working. We know it's unfair and it's horrible. We know people is suffering because of deportations. This is me as a community organizer, but as a person, I can say that my father was deported for one of this, 2007, by Mr. Barry. Thank you.
Nora. Next is Adriel Orozco, followed by Leticia Hernandez, followed by Samia Assad.
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Adriel Orozco, and I'm an attorney at the New Mexico Immigrant Law Center. NMLC provides legal services to low-income immigrants who otherwise would not have access to quality legal services. New Mexico Immigrant Law Center really supports this affirmation of the memorial that declared our city an immigrant and refugee-friendly city. This is needed now more than ever. I would like to bring up to the council a very real case that highlights the need for such a memorial. Albuquerqueans, individuals who have lived in our city for more than 5, 10, or 20 years, are being prevented from accessing the criminal justice system in our city. For example, I have a client who has lived here for more than 10 years, has 2 U.S. citizen daughters, and has not had any criminal history except for an alleged DWI last October. I say alleged because my client was not allowed to fight her case in court, because at the beginning of February, ICE agents, assisted by APD officers inside of the Metro Courthouse, tracked her down into the women's bathroom and arrested her. She is currently in immigration detention, and her criminal case is still pending. There are many similar situations like this that have taken place since then. Witnesses who are victims of crimes or domestic violence are scared about going to court and facing their aggressors. People who otherwise would need an order of protection are foregoing getting those orders of protection. The new president's strong enforcement policies are creating fear and anxiety in our communities. The City of Albuquerque's commitment to limiting the use of resources from the city and effectuating immigration enforcement promotes public safety not just for immigrants, but for all of us. NMLC encourages the City Council, in addition to today's reaffirmation of a memorial, to find other ways that our city can push for greater protection of our immigrant and refugee communities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Leticia, followed by Samia Assad, followed by Andrea Plaza.
President Benton and members of the council, my name is Leticia Hernandez. I'm a member of the Centro de Igualdad y Derechos. Today, more than ever, I am here to support a memorial on behalf of all the small businesses of immigrant families on the city of Albuquerque. We are very hardworking and close family, and for many years, we have worked very hard to see our business thrive. Thanks to our commitment and efforts, we have managed to build up a small food business called Taqueria Mexico, which is now generating more than 12 jobs. This not only benefits families to thrive, but also has contributed for more than 24 years to the economy of the city of Albuquerque. Just like our business, there are many others mixed status families and small businesses owners who struggle day after day, year after year, to achieve their dreams. Unfortunately, with the current anti-immigrants climate under Trump's administration, our business and other immigrant small businesses has been targets of hate crimes, such as vandalism, calls, and hate messages. Our business has been vandalized 3 times this last month. Today, more than ever, I ask you to support this memorial. We want the victims of crimes to feel safe and reporting to the police in any kind of crime. Doing so will be beneficial to all community members. We are already demonstrating who we are. We're good people, we're families, we're good workers, we're contributors to the owners and the small businesses, we're generating jobs, and we're very proud to be part of the beautiful city of generating income for Albuquerque. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next is Samia Assad, followed by Andrea Plaza, and then Jerry Bradley.
Good evening. I want to tell you a story of my personal story here. My grandfather left Palestine in 1914 to escape the British mandate. He went from Palestine to Liverpool and docked into Philadelphia 100 years ago. I want to tell you right now, as a mother of 9, a grandmother to 3, I have been consistently attacked in a neighborhood which is to be considered an elite neighborhood in Albuquerque. We have to set the tone of this state. We elected you as leaders. You have a moral responsibility to set the tone in this city. I'm from District 7. Ms. Jones, I would appreciate if you take my complaint seriously. I am among many Muslim women, Sikh women, different ethnicities that have been attacked in District 7, at supermarkets, at different parts of town, by men, harassed, followed by cars. This is a serious grievance. Please take it seriously. And I'm asking, first off, I want to commend all of you who have pushed Memorial 17-4. This represents the best that Albuquerque has to present. It's the least of our faith. It's the best we can do to unite a community that is under a lot of stress. The psyche of the immigrant community and the refugee community is so bad. It's worse than it's been since September 11th, and I don't joke you. And we took a lot of hits after September 11th. It was a catastrophe. It was a horrible time in this country. And we're still living, for 15 years, the consequences. So I beg of you today to please make Albuquerque a safe and friendly immigrant community, just like the beautiful city it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sack. Councilor Jones.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming here, but I do not represent District 7.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Thank you.
Who is District 7? Diane Gibson. Well, the Northeast is spelled.
She's with you. Okay, thank you. Next is Andrea Plaza, followed by Mr. Bradley, and then Dr. Lane Leckman.
Good evening, council members. My name is Andrea Plaza, and I'm the executive director of Encuentro. We are an adult education and workforce development center that enrolls over 400 Spanish-speaking immigrants every year. I'd like to read a letter signed by 25 local small business and economic development leaders who support the immigrant-friendly memorial. Esteemed council members, the below members of Albuquerque's business and economic development community would like to express our support for Albuquerque City Council Memorial 17-4, reaffirming Albuquerque as an immigrant-friendly city, and we urge you to work with Albuquerque's immigrant communities to strengthen current policies in light of new threats targeting our community. As community members devoted to ensuring the economic health and well-being of our city, we share an increasing concern for the continued safety of immigrant families and business leaders in Albuquerque. Over the last 5 years, many of us have participated in city-led efforts to support our immigrant entrepreneurial community through initiatives like Living Cities, City Accelerator, and the Molino Project, precisely because we recognize the important contribution these businesses make to our overall economic landscape. These businesses have created jobs, generated millions of dollars in local tax revenue, and revitalized many of our city's business corridors. They are the bread and butter of hundreds of immigrant families who enroll their children in our schools, buy and build homes, and contribute to weaving the economic and social fabric of our neighborhoods and community gathering spaces. Immigrant-owned businesses are essential to our public safety, and their collaboration with local law enforcement supports community policing efforts that keep our neighborhoods and business districts, excuse me, safe and accessible. We commend the council sponsors of this bill for recognizing the importance and urgency of proactively responding to national directives that threaten to lead to family separation, strip immigrants of due process, and instill fear in the lives of hardworking families, all of which negatively affect our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Plaza. Next, Jerry Bradley, Dr. Lane Leckman, followed by Justin Reamer-Thamer.
President Benton, members of the council, I'm Jerry Bradley. I'm a researcher and policy analyst with New Mexico Voices for Children, and New Mexico Voices for Children supports Council Bill M17-4. I wanted to get into some of the reasons why. First of all, I wanted to say that that the undocumented population in New Mexico is not large. It is crucial to our state's population and economy, but it is only 3% of our state's population. I think some of the heated rhetoric coming out of the administration, coming out of the governor's office would lead you to think that it's much larger. The number of U.S. citizen children of undocumented workers is a special concern of New Mexico Voices for Children. About 6 to 7% of the children in New Mexico are children of immigrants. Of those, about 3/4 are U.S. citizens. So we're concerned about those, and we're concerned about the atmosphere that's developing around undocumented workers, the undocumented population, and having its effect on children who are in fact U.S. citizens. And what's happening with those children, all of them, including the U.S. citizens, is that they're at risk of lower preschool participation, they're at risk of linguistic isolation, limited English proficiency, poverty, and the lack of economic mobility. For those reasons, we support the memorial. And I would also want to say that we need to stop ethnic cleansing. I think this is, as I read the statements coming out of the national administration, enforcement of immigration law is being used as an excuse for ethnic cleansing. That's where we are as a country.
Thank you, sir. Next is Dr. Lane Leckman.
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I have been a resident of Albuquerque for almost 71 years. I'm a doctor, a father, an elder in the First Presbyterian Church, and for the last 5 years, I have worked with many immigrants through the New Mexico Faith Coalition for Immigrant Justice. I went to Artesia and interviewed many of the women who were fleeing Central America with their children for their lives. Their stories touched me so deeply. And I want to just tell you, the people that I have worked with and I know are good people, many of them truly outstanding. And people who've spoken before me have said as eloquently or more eloquently than I could what I wanted to say this evening. So I just want to stick with the last point I wanted to make. This is a time not for half measures. This is a time to go all the way out to support all of those in our community who need our protection. And our national government is an ominous, oppressive force that we need to stand up against. And I'm asking each and every one of you that can and will to think creatively about what you can do beyond this measure, to protect our citizens, whether they be undocumented or not, whether they be minority or not, whether they be Jewish, Muslim, Presbyterian, or whatever else they might be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Justin Remer-Thamert, followed by Rosemary Blanchard, followed by Jen Parker.
Good evening, President Benton, members of the council, friends. As the Executive Director of the New Mexico Faith Coalition for Immigrant Justice, I want to hail back to the messages that we heard from the kids at the very beginning of this evening. I want to make sure that we're lifting up and connecting with the understanding that these are children that are most deeply affected by these issues. This afternoon, I got a phone call from one of the families who we've been working with within the Faith Coalition because ICE had contacted them saying that they would be coming to the house later that day, that they wanted to put the father on parole. He had had a DWI in 2001 and complied with all of the responsibilities therein. But after being pulled over by a police officer in 2014, a police officer who is alleged to have targeted a number of other families, he was put into deportation proceedings and signed voluntary departure, separating him from his children. 2 of his kids had very serious health concerns as a result of that family separation. The family had to sell all of their furniture, sleep on the floor for years without their father. He tried to eventually cross back and was caught by ICE, by Border Patrol, and was sent back. And a second time was able to be granted humanitarian parole. Unfortunately, now that he will have a parole officer, we're very concerned of what the possibility is. We've seen that when families are forced to go to their ICE check-ins, they're now being targeted. And so his children are again faced with this concern of what will happen if they are left without their father once again. I believe in restorative justice. I believe that as a person of faith, we can find the opportunity to support those who have criminal records and those who don't, that we can stand strong as one community and do better, and ask you to support M-17-4 and work for stronger measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Rosemary Blanchard, followed by Jen Parker, and then Addison O'Connor.
He was tall, I'm short. Thank you very much. My name is Rosemary Blanchard, and I am the chair of the Albuquerque chapter of the United Nations Association. And I will make some specific statements when the memorial is considered, but I wanted to speak at this area just to support in general the concept of what this council is undertaking. We're the local affiliate of the United Nations Association with the purpose of supporting fundamental principles and programs of the United Nations and the United States' commitment to those programs and principles. And that's why we are appearing today in support of the memorial and of the overall effort of this council, particularly because this upholds the tradition of grassroots support in the United States for fundamental human rights, as they've been expressed in the Universal Declaration and in treaties. The Universal Declaration protects movement of peoples in and out of their countries, asylum, rights of persons to change their nationalities. And while these rights are subject to reasonable law and regulation, they express a freedom of movement principle that is fundamental to building a world of neighbors. Now, it's particularly appropriate that this kind of action be undertaken at the level of city government, Very few people know this, but in 1992, our U.S. Senate ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And they said in their ratification that we were a federal republic. They couldn't do it all at the federal level, but those principles would be upheld at the state and local level. And they never told the state and local level, but they told the whole rest of the world that this is what we do, and we're doing it. And at another time, I would like to talk to this council about the concept of becoming a human rights city, something that Washington, D.C. has done, Pittsburgh has done, Eugene, Oregon has done. It would be an organizing principle for our building something beautiful out of this mess.
All right, next is Addison O'Connor, then Matt Makufsky, and then Eliza Bechtold.
I'm Jen Parker, and I think I was next.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Parker, then Mr. O'Connor, then Mr. Makufsky.
I recognize that you have a lot of speakers here tonight, so I really came as a concerned citizen. I'm the daughter of immigrants. My mother came from Sweden, and my father came from India in the late 50s. And I remember them having alien registration cards. I remember my dad got his citizenship in early 70s, and my mom didn't till like the 2000s. And I think we're a nation of immigrants, and I think Albuquerque is very diverse, and I would just ask you to be mindful and compassionate.
Thank you. Mr. O'Connor, then Mr. Makufsky, followed by Eliza Bechtold.
Sorry, it's Miss.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, my childhood friend is named Addison, but he's a boy.
Thank you, City Council members, for having me. My name is Addison O'Connor, and I want to share about something inspiring that's coming to the community. I'm a representative of the nonprofit Up With People, and that means that 100 youth from 20 different countries is coming to your community March 6th through the 13th. These youth come from countries like Madagascar, Nepal, Japan, Sweden, of course the US, Mexico, and Canada, but many other places, and they will be here that week to inspire youth and other people in your community to make a positive difference in the world, and to also build bridges of understanding. And so they'll be doing 1,000 hours of volunteer work in places like Mandy's Farm, Saranam, Roadrunner Food Bank, ARCA, and many other places. And they'll also be putting on our 2-hour live inspiring show at the Highland Theater to try to help bring the community together and make a change. And so I just want to share with you about that opportunity and about that exciting thing coming to Albuquerque. And also we'll get to live with local host families. So we'll get to see this beautiful culture that is Albuquerque and New Mexico. I've never been here before, and I'm loving trying red, green, and Christmas. And so many of these people will get to try those things as well. We'll be doing a lot of great work, but unfortunately, many of our participants do not have homes to stay in. 55 of our 100 participants currently do not have a home for that week, and they arrive in 12 days. So I want to share the community to get involved by either volunteering with us, coming to the show, or hosting an international participant in your home for 1 week. You're able to do so by going to upwithpeople.org/Albuquerque. That'll cover everything. And I just want to really invite you to get involved and do something positive in your community and make a difference and get to know people from different countries. So again, that's Up With People, coming to Albuquerque March 6th through the 13th. Thank you for the time.
So it's March 6th to the 13th?
Yes.
And at the Highland Theater?
The show is at the Highland Theater on the 10th and the 11th. I don't know.
On the 10th and 11th
Yeah.
at the Highland Theater?
Yes, but the 6th to the 13th are the hosting dates and the volunteer work dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's an opportunity to host some of these fine young people. So
It doesn't show.
that's great.
All right, thank you.
And the website one more time?
Upwithpeople.org/Albuquerque talks about the show, the hosting. You can get a hold of me and we can talk about volunteer work too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Matt, followed by Eliza, and then Karen Bentrup.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm Matt Makufsky, Director of Administration at Explora. I'm here on behalf of Kristen Lee, who's on work travel tonight and otherwise would have joined you, and on behalf of the rest of the Explora staff, some of which are here with me this evening, sitting to the side. And to thank you for the council's support of Explora over the years. As you likely know, Explora has served 300,000 people last year with interactive, hands-on exhibits and programs in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. We work with over 70 different partner organizations to provide no-cost museum memberships to over 20,000 low-income families throughout Albuquerque, providing unlimited access to Explora on an annual basis. Community and learning are two of our core values, and these values shape the work that we do with students, families, and teachers throughout Albuquerque. Listening to our community's aspirations has shaped our strategic plan, which Kristen has shared with you over the past few weeks, the Cradle Through Career STEM learning focus. We look forward to working with you in the future to develop these ideas and to develop an early learning center and a teen education and workforce development center in order to engage, educate, and employ New Mexico's future scientists of all backgrounds. On behalf of Kristen, Joe, the entire Explora staff, thanks again for your support.
Thank you. Next is Eliza, followed by Karen Bentrup, followed by Bill Cass.
Good evening, Mr. President and members of the council. My name is Eliza Bechtold, and I'm the legal director of the American Civil Liberties Union of New Mexico. And I'm here tonight to express the ACLU's support for reaffirming Albuquerque as an immigrant-friendly city. At this critical time, when the president is expressly targeting immigrants, it is imperative that the city of Albuquerque reaffirm its commitment to support immigrant families in our city and not contribute to the misery and injustice that our federal agencies are planning to deliver around the nation. We must show the nation that Albuquerque will not participate in President Trump's plans to realize the longtime dreams of white nationalists. Additionally, it is important to note that jurisdictions have no legal obligation to assist with civil immigration enforcement, which is the sole responsibility of the federal government. I would also like to emphasize that the 10th Amendment has been interpreted by the Supreme Court to preclude the federal government from compelling or commandeering any state or local government, either directly or by the use of coercive threats to withhold federal funding, to adopt federal programs or enforce federal laws, including immigration laws. President Trump is attempting to coerce and bully municipalities into assisting in the enforcement of federal immigration laws. The ACLU will be fighting back on this in the courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Karen Bentrup, followed by Bill Cass, and then Ann Cass.
Good evening, Mr. President, Vice President, and council members. My name is Karen Bentrup, and I am the great-grandchild of an illegal immigrant. I invite you to share in the immigrant story of my great-grandmother. Susanna was 13 years old when she took her dead sister's documents and sailed alone across the Atlantic, pretending to be someone else in order to gain entry. Like so many others, and maybe even your people, my great-grandmother was driven by desperation and desire. Having worked as a maid since she was 8 years old, Susanna yearned for a better life. So she lied and broke the law using false papers and a stolen identity to stay in our country. May I have the document camera? How is my Susanna, my great-grandmother, any different than Guadalupe Garcia de Reos, the 36-year-old mother and wife who has lived in the U.S. since she was 14 and targeted for deportation from Phoenix on February 4th over a nonviolent felony? Guadalupe had for years complied with ICE orders after being convicted of using fake Social Security number in order to work. My great-grandmother Susanna with fake papers, Guadalupe with fake papers, both wanting the same thing: to work hard, raise a family, and be afforded the promises that our Statue of Liberty enshrines. For my Susanna, Lady Liberty's torch shone as a welcoming beacon and a promise of a new life. Today, does this same torch now shine as a warning to immigrants to stop, to go back, to get out? I say no. We must stop threatening the immigrants in our country with bans and walls and deportations. We embrace our American Muslim sisters and brothers and welcome refugees and immigrants from across the world. Our nation is enriched through the diversity of people, ideas, skills, and customs. Please stand with me and thousands of supporters to proudly proclaim Albuquerque as a city that celebrates and protects all her people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Bill Cass, followed by Ann Cass, then Herb Hoffman.
Good evening, councilors. With the inauguration of Donald Trump, it's become obvious that we are in a struggle between authoritarian rule and democratic or rational governance. Authoritarian rule results from people using their wealth and offices to consolidate power for their individual benefit, most commonly through arbitrary acts designed to keep people in a state of fear. Democratic government was established to provide for the common good and assist us in meeting our basic needs for water, air, food, safety, and security. Basic needs are fundamental survival needs. What is important about this concept is that human behavior is shaped by individuals determined to survive. When people cross borders, it is because their survival is threatened. They do not have enough to eat, or their security is, they're subjected to threats to their safety and security. We as a community can respond in either of two ways. By denying human needs for many of us, it results in excess profits and unchecked power for a few. Or the far superior alternative, in my opinion, is to help human beings meet their survival needs. That's the purpose of government, to promote the general welfare. When people's basic needs are met, we are more peaceful. We are better citizens. To provide for human needs is simply a recognition of reality, a recognition of what motivates human behavior and what is necessary to create a better social environment. I'm a scientist. Making rational decisions based on information that describes reality is the epitome of the scientific method and is a basic for democratic governance. It results in solutions that work for almost everyone. Authoritarians, on the other hand, are not interested in solutions for everyone, only in solutions that increase their own power. A system that allows capital and misinformation, to freely cross borders, but denies people that same right, has created the human disruptions that we see today. We can change that in Albuquerque. Rather than deny and suppress humans struggling to simply survive, let's refocus our government to help people.
Thank you. Ms. Cass, followed by Mr. Hoffman, followed by Mike Alvarez.
Mr. President and council members, my name is Ann Cass. I'm speaking as a private citizen. Last week at a CPC meeting, a Citizen Policing Council meeting, I asked Chief Eaton if he would stand with the chiefs of police from Los Angeles, New York City, Denver, and other cities in declaring that APD would not participate in Trump's anti-immigration actions. Chief Eaton did not answer that question, but he did say that immigration is a federal concern and that APD did not have jurisdiction to deal with it. Since then, I've learned that federal law enforcement has the authority to deputize local law enforcement officers to participate and assist in immigration detentions and deportation efforts. Presumably, Albuquerque officials have the authority and the ability to choose to refuse such deputization. In this morning's Albuquerque Journal, Mayor Richard Berry was quoted as saying, quote, "As far as APD officers joining ICE as immigration law enforcers, we simply don't have the resources or plans to do that," unquote. Mayor Berry has framed this question in business terms. It's not in our business plan, and we have insufficient resources to conduct that particular venture. But this is a human rights issue and needs to be addressed from the viewpoint of good governance and concern for human needs. This matter must not be left to the discretion of the chief of police or the mayor. I'm asking the city council, as the most representative branch of city government, to state plainly and unequivocally that no part of Albuquerque city government, and APD is a part of city government, are to participate in any way to assist with federal immigration detention and deportation efforts. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Hoffman, followed by Mr. Alvarez, and then Liz McGrath.
Good evening, President Benton, members of the council. My name is Herb Hoffman, and I'm a resident of Albuquerque. And this evening, I'm representing the Central New Mexico chapter of Progressive Democrats of America, sometimes known as PGA. The memorial, M17-4, recognizes and is responsive to the real and potential impact of administration policies on the lives and well-being of our residents. The memorial will reaffirm Albuquerque's commitment to an immigrant-friendly city. This is a courageous step for the council. The memorial incorporates most of the concerns contained in a resolution presented at the last council meeting by our local PDA chapter. PDA is also supportive of the letter submitted by El Centro de Igualdad y Derechos. I would note that this evening there appears to be a lot of repetition of themes, of specifics. Please take the repetition as a way of reinforcing in your minds, in your beings, the very basic issues that we are addressing this evening. I urge the Council to consider stronger measures than a memorial, be it in the form of a resolution or ordinances. But that's for a future time. Council members, be of strong heart and constitutional principles. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alvarez, followed by Liz McGrath, and then Cynthia Jaramillo.
My name is Mike Alvarez, and I'm here to let everybody know that immigrants means a lot of different people. If you were to investigate or check your family tree, you'd be surprised where you come from. And yet, all of you that are mistreating all these immigrants just because they come from Mexico, profiling is against the law. The only thing I see on TV being sent back is people from Mexico. I want all of you to know, during the war in 1941, December 7th, a lot of people from Mexico came into the United States. A lot of them joined the armed forces. My dad was there, my uncles were there, and I wish they were here to let you know that these people are not bad. They come here to start a future, to get away from a bad life in Mexico. If we had to flee the United States like these people have to flee Mexico, how would you like for another country to receive us and treat us like human beings? All of us come from the same source, God Himself. When we are sad, we cry. When we cut ourselves, we bleed. And this is the only thing that these people come for. When the war in 1947 was huge, these people fed us, they clothed us, they housed us, and made sure that we had food to eat on our tables. All the farmers were losing their crops on the field. If it wouldn't be for them, the ones that were left behind during the war would have probably vanished. We need to let these people know that we are grateful for what they do for us. A lot of these jobs that they get, we wouldn't even consider hiring ourselves.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Next is Liz McGrath, followed by Cynthia Jaramillo.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Liz McGrath. I'm here to speak in support of the memorial reaffirming Albuquerque's status as an immigrant-friendly city. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself personally and also on behalf of over 250 people who are members of an organization called Defend Our Neighbors. Defend Our Neighbors is a nonpartisan grassroots effort to support all of our fellow citizens and non-citizens. Defend Our Neighbors was formed in November 2016 and is led by concerned citizens to ensure that we as a community actively support the rights of the New Mexico undocumented immigrant children and their families to live without fear, without oppression, and with a right to due process under the law. Defend Our Neighbors believes that supporting our undocumented immigrant neighbors is a significant moral duty. Additionally, we believe that it is important that we challenge threats to every part of our community, and that when we fail to do so, we make it more likely that those threats will continue and will spread to other parts of our community. For all these reasons, I personally, and on behalf of Defend Our Neighbors, urge you to adopt the memorial at issue today, reaffirming that Albuquerque is an immigrant-friendly city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cynthia Jaramillo.
Good evening, President Benton, council members. My name is Cynthia Jaramillo, and on behalf of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, I am here in support of M17-4. Now, we're an organization that represents many businesses, approximately 1,500, the majority of them being Hispanic. And we, along with so many others, have had the privilege to work directly with immigrant entrepreneurs and their families. And to keep it short and direct and to the point, what's most important to our chamber and our members is keeping families together and the safety of all people, all immigrants, documented or not. And also, I'm just here to encourage the council again to reaffirm the City of Albuquerque's commitment to diversity, reaffirm the city's commitment to public safety, regardless of status. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Jaramillo is our last speaker under general public comment. There were a few others who were over the limit of 30, and they're welcome, as we said earlier, to speak at the end of the meeting or to be first in line on general public comment at our next meeting.